Our guest this week on Veterans Chronicles is Adone Calderone, but he goes by Cal. He is a veteran of the U.S. Navy and a survivor of the Pearl Harbor attack on December 7th, 1941 by the Japanese. Cal, it's good to have you with us. Thank you.
You're right.
Well, let's start at the very beginning. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Italy.
Really?
Yeah, half my family was born in Youngstown, and half of my family was born in Italy. And my father traveled back and forth, and he had two citizenships. So, when I was born in Italy, I have my own citizenship, June 11th, 1920.
Amazing. Yeah. And when did you join the service?
October the 15th, 1940.
Why did you join?
To go to school. It was Depression. Mm-hmm. The Navy said if you come to school, the music school, they were hiring musicians, and then you pass the course, you get a 2-year certificate, and we're good at any college, and it's an opportunity, but you have to give it 6 years. And I thought that was a pretty good deal at the time.
Talk about your musicianship. What did you play?
String bass and tuba, and then I became a conductor.
Oh, fantastic. So you were actually, I'm assuming you went through the basic training that everybody goes through.
No, we took a short basic training.
Really?
Just to get the uniforms.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what?
We were done about 2 weeks, that's all.
Oh, okay.
We got all the uniforms to come back to school. Now that school is the Armed Forces School in America. It's in Virginia. Everybody goes to that school. They don't care how good you are, you got to go to that school.
Okay. And where did you go after that?
Then we graduated because of the war clouds, and emergency. I went to West Virginia. I went to West Virginia in June 1941.
Okay. So that's when you joined the USS West Virginia?
Yes, USS West Virginia.
And you were already at Pearl Harbor or not yet?
I was already in Pearl Harbor.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you're there in June. What were you doing between June and December?
All the military, a lot of music in military, a lot of music. If you see anything that's going on with officers that change of command, they're there. Just like in 1776 they had the Pied Pipers. You know what they changed into? The United States Marine Band. They're right down the street.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Every major capital ship had its own band. And then you had military duties too.
And what were your military duties?
Telephone operation because of on damage control. Some are in medic, some are different places. That was my job. And I had to talk to Central Station, or they talked to me. Then we would give orders, and the lieutenant would tell him what he needed, and I would transfer it. I made no decisions. He made them.
And the fact that you were with the musical group is a big part of the story on when it comes to Pearl Harbor, because what were you doing the night before, December 6th?
Well, they had a battle of the bands, and we had guardship, and they needed a bass player. So they called my ship if I could come over and play with them. So they got permission, and I went over. And I played with them. And the raid was won by the Pennsylvania, but after Pearl Harbor, they gave it to they were second. And then we had a party, and then the bandmaster says, why don't you come to our ship and stay overnight, and then come back on the boat the next morning? I said, it's a great idea. So I called the OD, officer of the deck, and he says, we have drills starting, 800, they're going to need you. Permission denied. But we'll let you stay out until 1:30, 1:30. I said, okay. So I told him, I can't make it. And if I'd have gone there, I'd have been dead.
Because that was the
next day, they all got killed.
That was the USS Arizona. Mm-hmm. And the entire band lost their lives.
I'd have been done.
Wow.
And I thought for a while they were personally after me.
So when you woke up on December 7th, how did it unfold?
Normal. There was a question. I can't explain it. That we were a little bit uneasy. Crewmen have that sense. Something's wrong. What they're doing here, there's something's going on, and And they were just trying to find out. Nobody knew. And then they brought all the battleships in. Usually half are in, half are out. So that weekend, they brought our division in. Well, we'd have been at sea. Where we lost 2,400 lives out there, we lost maybe 30,000. So they brought them in because our carriers were gone. We very seldom went to sea without the carriers. The Italians learned that lesson. The British bombed the battleships, no carrier protection. They said they didn't need it. They found out. And the Japanese learned from that lesson. So they were looking for those carriers, but they attacked anyway.
When did you realize they were attacking?
The second hit. First hit, I thought somebody ran into us. But there was a lot of, it wasn't that kind of a hit. It wasn't a collision hit. It was a sharp. And you turn your head, and then just about 30 seconds, the next one hit. Then I knew it. Then I figured I had to go to general quarters. So I went to my general quarters. It wasn't far away. I went there, and but before I got there, it got hit and blew it up. It was all demolished. If I had called general quarters a minute or so, I'd have been right there. So I put the earphones on. They're dead. There's nothing there. So then, kept getting hits. See, we were outside. We were tied up to the Tennessee. Then we started to list by about 28 inches, 28 feet. And then they decided to counterflood.
To balance it back out. And so what did you do?
I went with them.
And what did you have to do?
I just watched them. Because they knew what they're doing. I didn't. And I went with them. I didn't want to stay alone. Because they all left.
Right.
They all left, and then it started. And we were holding hands, and we were jumping up and down. The water's up to here. And the water was coming through the hatch, the round hatch. The big hatch was dogged. The water was coming through with speed. That means a lot of water up there. And somebody said, if we open up the door, there's an exit where you can get out. If it's full of water, we die. That's simple. We said, go for it. All six. So we were held hands. The guy squeezing my hand. I was breaking my hand. I was squeezing his back. So we got there, then we were taught how to breathe. You take 3 deep breaths, and then you take the third breath, you expand your lungs. And then you fill up your lungs with air. You went down on the knees in the water, came back up and fight your way up. And then when that air is done, you open your mouth. If it's water, you're dead. When I opened my mouth, there's air and water. And then somebody pulled me out, and I pulled all the guys out. Then we looked at each other, and didn't know too many of them. And one guy just patted my cheek, and I patted his cheek. And I just looked at him, and I said, he's my brother. And then he left. I left alone. That's all. Then a few minutes later, another explosion hit up there, and I was wounded in the face.
Shrapnel.
And the concussion knocked me on my tail. And then we started abandoning ship routine. And we took our shoes off and dove in the water, and I was bleeding quite a bit. And so the guys saw it. They threw a line and we pulled me in. They put a piece of cloth or something to hold it from bleeding. And they took me to one of the docks, put us in a truck, took me to the hospital. They took the splinter out, patched it up, and said, do you want to stay here? I said, hell no. I want to get back to my ship. That's my home. But on the highway, on the road, was all these wounded, burnt. The skin just falling off. And half dead. Then I had some doctor going down with a red pencil or something he was marking out. He was putting a coat on there. Can't be saved or whatever it is. Then they were taking the ones that could be saved. And the nurse said, then the doctor says, you'll receive a Purple Heart. I said, well, thank you. Give it to those guys. They're the ones that are really suffering. And guess what? I gave my numbers, signed the papers, and never got the Purple Heart. So I wrote him a letter and said, when I asked for my medals because my kids wanted them. Medals don't interest me. And there was no Purple Heart. So I wrote back and said, where's my Purple Heart? They didn't even answer. Now the hair goes up. And finally, my friends that I knew that I was hurt said, we'll sign any affidavit. So we made an affidavit out, legally signed, sent it in, they didn't even answer. So since we're on the air, I'm not going to tell you what I told the Navy to do. Now, I come here, and one of your directors said, I have somebody you can talk to who's a Purple Heart. Maybe we can help you. I said, okay. So I have the information to give to. And Wes is doing this. So when this interview is over, I'll give you the information. That's all I can give you. Yeah. There's no other witnesses. So if they want to give it to me, give it to my kids. If they don't want to give it to me, like I said before, I respect it, I honor it, but I don't stand up when they call for a Purple Heart. I don't stand up. I don't have it. Maybe I'm wrong. Who cares?
Well, certainly deserving of it. And Cal, we're going to continue your story when we come back in just a moment. We're talking with Cal Calderone, veteran of the U.S. Navy, survivor of Pearl Harbor. We'll have much more of his story when we come back on Veterans Chronicles. This is Veterans Chronicles on the Radio American Network. I'm Greg Corumbus. Thanks for being with us. Honored to be joined today by Cal Calderone. He is a veteran of the U.S. Navy and a survivor of Pearl Harbor. He joins us at the annual American Veterans Center Conference. And Cal, we were just talking about your fight for the Purple Heart, receiving treatment for your wounds, and then you demanding that you be allowed to go back to the USS West Virginia.
Oh yeah, when they fixed it, the nurse says, I can arrange for you to stay here. And I saw the paperwork. I can arrange for you to stay here overnight. I said, no, I want to get back to the ship. Young, naive. So and I'm looking at these guys out there. So I hitched a ride. I had a bandage across the head, looked like a bum, dirty, full of oil. And so I got to the receiving station. And the guy told me, boy, you're filthy. I said, I know. He said, go in there and take a shower. And he gave me another pair of shorts. I didn't get it all off, but I felt clean. And I went back out, and then this officer came up and says, there's a possibility we could lose to West Virginia. We need help. And I said, I'll volunteer. Young and dumb. And he said, you don't have to because you're already wounded. I said, that's my home. I said, besides that, I operate a phone on damage control. Well, we can use you. So I got in a boat and come back. We fought the fires for 2.5 days.
What was it like at Pearl Harbor seeing all the destruction?
It was just quiet, ghostly, a lot of popping noise, picking up bodies, pop up in the air. And it was just, and then the greatest thing that happened, Roosevelt declared the infamy speech, and they put it on the speaker system on the Tennessee, and we heard it. And I didn't hear anybody that was scared. Everybody wanted to get on the ship and kill those SOBs. That's the way it was. These were all young people, and they did. They loaded the ships up and they went to sea. And they did a lot of things. But the only point is that I did that for a while. I was a decoder. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you that. And then later on, politics was terrible between Washington. They didn't believe. That the jobs are coming. And we had to prove it. You know how we proved it? We sent out a fake message. Says water evaporators not working. And we listened. They sent a coded message, evaporators midway not working, target AL.
Then you knew.
And we knew. But we knew we had that information. Then OA was Aleutian. And see, Admiral Nimitz listened to his intelligence, Leighton, these guys. And that's what happened. So then later on, we were relieved. We put the band back together again, and they gave us a gift. They put us in a Royal Hawaiian Hotel for 3 months.
Nice.
And the only people allowed in there were pilots, Navy pilots, Marine pilots, crews, submarines, and their crews, and their officers. Nobody else was allowed in the hotel.
This is after Pearl Harbor or after
That's
Midway?
after Pearl.
Okay.
They took it over. And then from there, then other things happened. And then I was doing a little teaching. I was training. And that's a board, classes. But there's some things that happened I was involved in, and I'm not going to tell you.
So were you deployed? First of all, did they fix the West Virginia?
Yep. Brought her up. And I saw her leave Pearl Harbor on her own power. You know what? The engine room was unwatered. It was watertight. So what they did, they brought electricians from GE. They went down and worked on those turbines. So that was unwatered. On the 17th of December, well, it wasn't the 17th. In June, when they brought the ship up, they opened up the forward compartment. They found about, I don't know how many, I know it was over 5 sailors that were trapped in there and died. And they lived until the 16th of December.
Oof.
My mother found out I was alive on the 16th. And I signed every paper, just to fog over.
Sure. Was your brother in the service as well?
No brothers, I was the only one.
Oh, okay.
My brothers are much older.
I see.
I'm one of those late babies. And so anyway, that's about what happened. Then we kept hearing. Then I went to school again for more training because we were going to go attack Japan. We were getting ready to attack Japan. And they were going to have an extra fleet of carriers, all fighters, to protect the other fleets. But we would have lost 1 million men. And we lost 12,000 at Okinawa. And the Enterprise had her elevators blown out of the ship. She was done with the war.
Cal, let me have you pause right there, and we'll be back on Veterans Chronicles. This is Veterans Chronicles. I'm Greg Columbus, honored to be joined today by Cal Calderone. He is a veteran of the U.S. Navy and a survivor of Pearl Harbor, and he served on the USS West Virginia. So that amazing sight of seeing the West Virginia repaired and steaming off in Pearl Harbor. Were you ever on board it again?
One time, and then I saw with all her guns. Oh my God, they put about 50 guns, the Bofors, and those quads. All we had was 5-inch. They had that new fuse. I don't know if the Navy wants to talk about that or not. You couldn't shoot it over land because they didn't want anybody to catch it. It would go up to the airplanes and detect the metal. Shrapnel really flies. But then that happened, the war was over. And the West Virginia was the first battleship into Tokyo Bay. I was home then. And then they sent me out to San Francisco. I took over a band out there. And the United Nations was forming. President Roosevelt died. And Harry Truman was the president. So they wanted a new United Nations. And they were going to bring the Navy band out from Washington, D.C. And I knew some people. And I knew this one commander. I said, why don't we get a sailors band? Why bring those guys over? They haven't done nothing. Why don't we bring people who have seen action? They liked that. So the captain said, write it up. And I did. I wrote it up. And I gave it to him. And a 4-star admiral. You know what he told me? You screw up on this thing, I'll send you so far away it'll take a 20-cent stamp to catch you. and stamps are free. So we had permission to recruit from the ships that were in California. I brought those guys in. They sent orders out, brought all these guys. We had a 60-piece band. But the Navy said, musicians are lousy markers. So they brought a Marine guy in. He wore his hat on his nose like that, and drunk all the time. He'd been broke 5 times, but he was a sergeant. And he walked in, and he could swear for about 20 minutes and never say the same word twice. And he taught us how to stand at attention. And we looked pretty good. And so then Molotov, you've probably heard of him, haven't you? Mm-hmm. He was the prime minister. He came over, he wouldn't come by plane. He came by train from New York. And we had to move everything over to Berkeley. There was no trains from San Francisco coming across. You had to go there and catch the train. So I found out, being a musician, there's a Russian folk song. Beautiful. When the Marine band went over and played in Russia, they had that. And they would play that at every concert, and somebody in the audience would sing it. Well, I know the guys in the Marine band. So they told me what it was, and I got one sheet. So then we had to get permission with State Department. A lot of other people do it. So then I went down to Stanford, friends of mine in music department. I said, I want you to write me an arrangement for 65 pieces. He said, how do I get in the Navy? He wanted to come in and play with the band. Well, we rehearsed it. I rehearsed a lot of them. We had white spats, we had gold scarves, we had epaulets. Oh man, I'll tell you where to show. And we got special white hats with the trim was just right. They looked great. So then he's coming off the train, and this admiral was with him. And he's reviewing the troops. I told this sergeant, now I can't see because I got to conduct the band. Now it's not good to turn around. You let me know what you see. Okay. He was sober that day. And so as he came down, we started this thing. And he just kind of, from what they tell me, he stopped, he looked at his aide, and he kept walking. And he kept slowly. Then his aide told the admiral, you are playing a great folk song. And the admiral went crazy, and I think that helped me get a promotion. So anyway, we did that. So then I was called in by the captain. He loved Susan marches, and I found out you got to find out what people like to make points. And when we go up and play, and I used to tell the guys, you got to march straight. If you don't, I'll transfer you out. And I could do that. I had the power to do that. I'll put you someplace where it'll take a 20-cent stamp to find you. And so anyway, so we were playing, and we did the national emblem the right way, the right speed. And when I hear it now on the radio, my kids laugh. They butchered. They should throw them out. That should be played just exactly the way the Marine band plays it. And that's what the Navy band plays it. That's why we played it. And so that's what happened. And so I would play an American march. And once in a while, I would put an Italian symphonic march in it. It's just what happened. And one time, his aide came and said, boy, you played a march today. It was so beautiful. And I told him, sir, the Italians are great inventors of music. That's Italian folk song. But I changed the name. I think I called it American Unity or something like that. And then we became friends. Then we played dances all over, anything military. And then they started closing things down, and they sent me to Patuxent. And they said, why don't you stay in the Navy? And then you go to Europe, and we'll give you a band, and we'll make you a warrant officer. I said, what's wrong with making me a warrant officer now? They said, why would you have to ship over? I says, I'm not interested. So then they promoted me to chief. I was ready promoted. They said, "We'll make you chief." I says, "Evidently you haven't seen the rank." You know, that was terrible. So then I still didn't get my money from my clothes that I lost at Pearl Harbor, my instrument. And I wrote him a letter. I said, "You can do what the hell you want, but either you pay the money or I'm going to go to the major newspaper and tell them how cheap the Navy is, how you screw your sailors." 3 weeks later, I got a check for $556. That's just, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, very effective. You were telling me a great story in one of the breaks about, in addition to your work as a musician in the Navy, your actual the military duties they had you doing as well, and it was because of your musical ability. Explain that.
That's right. The thing is this: the military. See, the Navy's real funny. When they have a change of command, man, they want everything. You've ever seen them in change of command? It's very impressive. Once in a while you'll see it at the Pentagon, you know, man. And the Army band's there, or the Air Force band, or Marine band, and it's boom, right? Well, when they go to that White House, they don't have music. Everything is memorized, boy, and it better be right. You're gone. See, the Marine band can't fire you. They can't send you someplace else. They have to release you. Congress made that law. That's the president's band.
Talk about your coding, though. Back at Pearl Harbor, or whenever you were in the service. Beyond that, you were explaining to us how the ability to read rhythms and.
Oh no, those are the things that we could do. Chords, hear sound, and this was when they were talking to us. They said, "Sir, we're musicians, you know." And he said, "You can do things." And Admiral Layton, he was one of the. So they kept 40. They kept 40. Now most of the guys in the California band stayed. They told me, "We'd like to have you change your rating to electronics." I said, "I came in a musician. There's my stubbornness. I'd go out a musician. They're going to ruin my career. For your, you know, if there's music, I'll do this because we need it. But I know you got other people." So I always thought everybody got fired. They didn't send me home. I was out there all the time.
That musical ability, though, it really not only served the military well, it gives you special skills that are very practical in other ways.
That's right. Then what happened? You've heard of Packard automobiles, haven't you?
Sure.
Okay. The man who invented the Packard automobile is from Warren, Ohio. The Dow Packard. Okay. In 1924, he used to be serenaded. He owned a Packard factory, and he invented the car. And this band, local band, would go and play for him. They play Sunday Con. That's the way it was in those days. So he liked the band. So he left $150,000, and there's this story, and $150,000 to build a fireproof hall. That's how long ago it was. Mm-hmm. But you couldn't touch nothing until both of them were dead. He died, 24, 25. She died in 50s. What do you think it turned into between 12 million? When I come to the 12 million, I was one of the people they called in to organize the band. And I'm thinking, they wanted me to take the job. I says, "I can't afford to work here." I was in investment business. I said, I can't work for $300 a month, you know. And besides, I was moving up, you know. But I said, "I'll tell you what, I'll take the assistant job, and I'll help you hire the musicians. Because I'm this way. If you can't play, I get rid of you." That's what the Marine band does. That's what the Navy band does. You can't play. You know, the Marine band had 50 guys on baritone, euphonium, to take tryouts, 50-some people, and I had the document. They took them. That's like, Sousa, all that. Mm-hmm. And you go there now, all of them have master's degrees or doctorate degrees.
Right.
And I'm not kidding you. Have you heard the band play?
Yes.
Oh, they're absolutely so. And the Navy band is just great. But these are the President's band.
Right. President's
They
Singing.
have string, they have an orchestra, And I played a little bit of jazz. I played, I went on a cruise. I forgot about that, so I off the record. I went on a cruise with FDR. He loved the School of Music. And sometimes we would go play in the White House. He just loved the sailors. So he went on a cruise. And we got on a train here to go to Norfolk. And the train stopped about halfway. So, how come we're stopping? And the guy said, don't you know what I? He said, go see his girlfriend. He had a girlfriend at that time and crippled, right? In about 2 hours, he came back, go to the train when he went down. So we got on the Augusta. And we played strings, we played anything he wanted, you know. So then we augmented with the band they had, which was a ship's band at the time of the old style. We got about 3 that were good enough to play with us, all young kids. And then we played. And then he was fishing one day, and a boat come out there, and here come Lucy. You didn't tell nobody. Just none of my business, you know. And he loved marches, and he was 12.
Just a couple minutes left in our conversation, Cal. When you think about Pearl Harbor now 75 years later and what you went through that day and how really blessed you are to have survived that day, what comes to mind first?
I really don't think too much about, I do have that word memory once in a while it hits, but it hasn't hit me in the last 15, 20 years. Maybe a little bit, you know, but I still can't go in a closet.
Yeah?
I'll tear the door down. You put me in a dark room, you're in trouble. I'm sorry, I'll kick it. I told my wife, don't ever lock me up on a door. There's no light. That happened. I changed a lot of things. The only thing I think about is those young people who died for their country, never got a chance to be a mother and a father. And why me? Why me? Why was the Lord so good to me? You know, maybe I've got to do something, and I did. Very active in the churches. I mean active, very active. And I want the kind of work where I help people. And that's what I did. I went in the insurance business. I helped people. Investments. And I went with the Knights of Columbus. I retired early. I went to the Knights of Columbus. And my style was this. How much can you afford to put away that won't hurt you? They say $50. That's what we'll talk about. Not 60. But I don't want you to lose that 50. And I had people invest their money, mostly mutual funds. I didn't like those thieves on the marketplace. They get paid going in and going out. They're not thieves, they're crooks. But so I don't think too much about it. Now, right now, since this is you guys, I don't want to come down here stupid, so I got some books that I have everything. Anything about Pearl Harbor. And I went through them, which were marked, and I read them a little bit, and then put notes down. That's it. So the day I die, I have a whole bunch of stuff for my son, the other boy, they can take. I have a piece of the Japanese airplane that took off the wing.
Really?
Yeah. We were offered $10,000 for that in about 1965. Somebody told me that I could be worth $100,000 right now.
Where'd you get it?
Off the Japanese Kate, a bomber that was shot down in Pearl Harbor. Oh. They took the engine out, they took everything else out, and they put a circle around it. And I was flopping in the wind. I just took and grabbed it and put it in my pocket.
Fascinating.
Well built.
Cal, unfortunately we're out of time. Thank you, sir, very much for your story and your service to our country.
Yeah. And I appreciate you not getting in things, but I'm kind of, when I take an oath of allegiance, and they tell me, you should never talk about this. Mm-hmm. And when I talk to intelligent people, never talk about this. Because sometimes things are said in my presence. Wow. Tell one sailor, so I just didn't do it.
Loose lips sink ships.
They kept us separate on the ship, too.
Yeah?
Yeah, we had our own quarters. Nice. You know what else we had in there?
Stay seated. You'll get your microphone from you. Go ahead.
We had fire bombs in there.
Really?
Anything happens, you flip the fuse, incinerate everything. You throw everything in there. Cold books, everything.
Wow.
Because they could pick it up.